It's going to be a shiur. First, I'm going to go over Hillchos Tzedakah. Then, the next shlaf is going to be Hillchos Ma'aseh K'sufim. That means it is a separate, it is mekusher, it's related to Hillchos Tzedakah K'mivin. It's basically one thing, but it's separate halachas. It means first we're going to go through Klulas Dige Klulam in Hillchos Tzedakah, and then we get to Hillchos Ma'aseh K'sufim, from what we take Ma'aser, what we could do with all the Ma'aser, and very practical halachas which we have. It's first of all, Mamash B'siyata D'Shmaya, Ashgocha Protis. I assume that everybody over here learned Chitas today. And today's Chitas, the Alter Rebbe has a very, very powerful line, which is, quote, Kol Iker Avodas Hashem, the main thing Avodas Hashem, Be'itas Haluli nowadays, Be'ikvis the Mashiach, Avodas HaTzedukah. Alter Rebbe says, although once upon a time, Avodah V'limud Torah was much more dominant, much more choshev than other mitzvahs, nowadays, Iker Avodas Hashem is Avodas HaTzedukah. K'mo shekosiv Ayin Yisrael Nigulam Ele B'Tzedakah. The Geula is going to be through Tzedakah. So this is today's day's Chitas. Ma'il is Mamash Siyata D'Shmaya, the Shgocha Protis. The Shgocha Protis goes even further, that this Shabbos, the past Shabbos, we learned, Mamash the Hilchas, the Yisada Yisoides from Hilchas Tzedakah. What is the pasuk which we learned? Afila Mei Pumim. Yeah, we hear a Sicha, the Rebbe's Machadish, the Rebbe said, Mei Pumim is even more than Mei Pumim the second time. The pasuk says like this, Pashas Ra'ei, Ki Yibachu Evyoin, Ma'achechu, Me'achad Achechu, Ba'achad Sherechu, Ashravai Lekecha Noislechu, Loisa Amatzes Lavavchu, you shouldn't close your heart. You shouldn't close your hand and of not giving tzedakah. So that's the first pasuk. Then the pasuk says, what should you do? You should open your hands. You should give him what he needs, what it's missing for him. Again, I'm quoting the psukim fully because it's very important. So there's the second pasuk. You should open your hands and you should full give for the oni whatever it's missing him. Then the pasuk says, be aware you shouldn't chas v'sholom have something in your heart and you won't be able to lend other people because it comes shmita and it will be basically you're going to lose the loan. So the pasuk no. No so in titain, again, another pasuk. No so in titain, you should give for this person which is alone or basically tzedakah. Because you are going to give tzedakah, that's the third pasuk which we have. And the fourth pasuk is, the pasuk says, so we have four psukim. Twice we see it says positive. You should open your hands. And another pasuk, nus and titain. And twice the Torah says no, don't. And as we're going to see soon, we have two mitzvahs esa, two mitzvahs lo esa. Fine. That's the psukim from the whole Indian of tzedakah comes. The Torah writes in Hilchos, beginning of Hilchos Tzedakah. Now Hilchos Tzedakah is in Yoredeya, Chelik Beis, 13 simonim. The simon is Yid Gimel Midas Arachmim, 13 simonim from Simon Reish Mem Zayin, all the way till Reish Niyin Tes, 13 simonim is Hilchos Tzedakah. So the Torah starts like this. Mo'id, Tzurich Udam Lizur, for the mitzvah, Yoyse Mikol Mitzvahs Eser. You have to be aware of this mitzvah, to do the mitzvah more than all the mitzvahs. Why? Because because in this mitzvah, a poor person could stand and ask some food, and if you don't give him, he could pass away. It's a shvichas dumim. Shiyum is the oni will die if you don't give him right away. And the Bach over there writes, and I mentioned it already when we spoke in Hilchos, that 4 times the only way the Torah brings the Loshen Mo'oid Mo'oid, which is basically an Yichid, which is a thing which you have to be very careful. Hilchos Yichid, that's why he writes Mo'oid Mo'oid. Shoichet, Mo'oid Mo'oid, because it's very, it's a very tempting, yeah. Issa Ribas, also because it's very, very tempting. You have my money, and does make money, so automatically it's very tempting. And Hilchos Tzedakah. And of this, all this, we say Mo'oid Mo'oid, because it's very, very thing which is very choshev, it's choshev mitzvah, and there is a gewaldige Indian you should do it, because, again, like the Torah says, it could connect with Shvichas Dum, has a kesher. What? Chol Modecha means money, yeah, exactly. Nochem Gamzi, exactly. That, from don't name to the Torah, as he could come Shvichas Dum, but he wanted to give, and in the meantime, the guy passed away. Then the Shulchan Aruch writes in Siv Bais, Le'olam ein udam ma'ani ein udam ma'uni min tzedakah. There isn't a person which is going to become poor by giving tzedakah. Ein davar kazeh. A person gives tzedakah, nothing is going to miss him. V'lo yiduva ra, v'lo hezek mesgalgal al yudah. There will be no hezek, any damages will come. A person gives tzedakah. Shenemer vo'imasa tzedakah sholem. Tzedakah brings sholem. Then the Mechaber says, weiter, kol maracham alo aniyam, HaKadosh Baruch Hu maracham olav. Now we're going into Chodesh Elul, especially the inyonim of tzedakah is eine von den Sachen which is very important. As the Rambam says that a person in Hilchos Shuvah, a person should remember that you should always think about it, that he's 50-50. 50%, he's 50% Avayras, 50% mitzvahs. The whole world is 50% schuyas, 50% choyvas. You're doing a small mitzvah, you are basically making the world should have a kiyum. And the Rambam says, that's why, when it comes to the days of Seisim HaYeshiva, it is an Inyan to give extra tzedakah and do mitzvahs. So it's interesting, the Mefarshim Madayek, the Rambam says, that's why we do extra mitzvahs in order to tilt the scale to the positive, to l'chiv, to schus. And the Rambam says doing extra mitzvahs and giving extra tzedakah. Because tzedakah is shuvah k'neged kol mitzvahs. And therefore, as we know, the halacha is, halacha shechanuch pasken, tzedakah tatzal mamuvas. V'doiche exairis koshes. The Remu, azan v'hi ma'asheres. The Remu says, it is ma'asher. You give tzedakah, it is going to bring you wealth. It's going to bring you, you're going to cash out of it. We know that you cannot be manasas Hashem. Lo yisanasas Hashem elakechu. You cannot, say, Rebbeinu Shem, you know what? I keep Shabbos, you have to give me that. Give me panosa. You can't do such a thing. There's the only mitzvah which the Rebbeinu Shem says, test me. You can test Hashem. And that's the mitzvah of tzedakah. And the pasuk says, check it out. If not, if I'm going to open the Ribbis HaShamayim and give you, extra what we gave. Now, there's a machlokes in the pasuk Rishonim and the pasuk, if this goes on dafka of Meiser on the field, that means a Meiser, we have to, the mitzvah to give for the Levi, you have to give 10% only for them. You could say, but for the common tzedakah, you cannot test Hashem. But Lamasa, the remove paskins, even master kesufim, it is also v'chenunim mezoy. That means a person has a right, so to speak, to say, Rebbeinu Shalom, I'm giving tzedakah, I want to see. Rebbeinu Shalom says he's going to give him back much more, let's test him. You can do it. Because this is Allah with the Rebbeinu Shalom says, v'chenunim mezoy goes also an inyan of master kesufim. Others say it's only master tefiyah, others say that is also a master kesufim. This is how the remove paskins. The Chinuch writes, the mitzvah of tzedakah is a mitzvah which is chiyuv to do with simcha. You have to do it with simcha. Now we all know we have to do every mitzvah with simcha. But the Chinuch says that's a geder in the mitzvah. The Chinuch, if you ever learned Chinuch, he gives the ikra mitzvah, and then he goes after miprutei ha mitzvah. All to know how to do the mitzvah. when it comes to mitzvah of tzedukah, he writes, the mitzvah is mitzvah litten besimcha, the chsiv lo yair ravcha basit chaloi. And the Repoiskem and the friedige achroinim write, am adaik from the chinuch, as the chinuch is a heilig from the etzem mitzvah, it should be besimcha. That means if you don't do it, besimcha, fehlt an etzem mitzvah. We see, as we're going to see, the Shulchan Aruch writes, that if a person does not have money, and only asks him for panos, to give him a donation, and he doesn't have, the focus has to be mafaisoy. You have to say, I would love to give you, and I would give you, but I don't have. And if you give him with a sour face, is a conflict with the chinuch, as bekannt bekannt in the mitzvah. Shulchan Aruch machsh was bekannt in the mitzvah, but it's a hosish kan schar. So if you want to give tzedukah, and you with a sour face, so you loike mishalom, you lose your money, and you don't have schar mitzvah. In the conflict with the chinuch, as bekannt in the mitzvah. What? So when we give tzedakah, you have to do it b'simcha. You have to. What?
That should be the highest.
Yeah, but the chinuch says it's a heilig from the mitzvah. That's mine. If not, it's a the mitzvah. You say it's a mitzvah. The highest level is we do it when it's b'simcha. The chinuch says.
And don't do b'simcha and you get no schar. That should be a level higher.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Good.
Punish for this sour face.
Yeah. The Gemara tells a story that there was two children. One child gave for his father beans, a very poor food, but he did it b'simcha, he did it, machab matata, b'kibud av. And there's another guy who gave him lavish foods, gave him steak, but he did it, he had to do it because, so in the Gemara tells, that guy was mekayim the mitzvah of kibud av, much more than the other guy which did do it, shloi b'simcha. Okay, so now at least we know, mitzvah tzedukah is a mitzvah, which is one of the biggest mitzvahs, shkule. You have to do it b'simcha, and it's permitted to make, so to speak, a deal with the Rebbe Shalom, I'm giving tzedukah, let's see how much you're going to pay me back. Now it's a mitzvah aseh d'oraisa, as we mentioned before, and as we're going to see soon, it's going to be two mitzvahs aseh d'oraisa. So basically, why don't you make a bracha? A poor person comes to you, knocks on the door, asks for a donation. You should have said, "Ashikadishurim b'mitzvos v'tzivuni al mitzvos tzedukah," or the liten tzedukah. Like every mitzvah, you have to make a bracha. What happened? That mitzvah on giving tzedukah, there's no bracha. The Rashba has a tshuva on this, and he deals with this noise. The Rashba wants to say that since it is a mitzvah which basically could be neka, that means if what is you going to make a bracha, she can shoot himself with a little tzedukah, and he gives it from the onion, then the onion decides, no, I don't want to take from you. I don't want to take from you. Or I don't want to take this much is what I want, I want more, whatever. I don't want to take, if you give me a rest of $100, I'm not taking. So you're making a bracha, you're making a bracha levatala. So therefore, zug der Rashba, it's a mitzvah, which is, you could make the bracha and not do the mitzvah, therefore you don't make a bracha. There is other Rishonim which give it different reasons. One of the reasons is Davud Raham. What? The bracha achroina. The other David Raham brings the other reason, because since this mitzvah is a mitzvah which in order to give tzedakah, make a bracha, you have to have someone who doesn't have money. You have to have, it's a kilkel for another person. So you should make a bracha when someone else suffers from it. So we don't make a bracha. But it's Noshim she'einu megonim. Okay. Sikim ze nicht so genommen. Okay, emas auch emas. There's a word for Birme Peshischa. He said, you know why you don't make a bracha? What happens? A chos, looks for a chos, you have to make a bracha to give tzedakah. Did sich the gartel, läuft im mikveh, macht a bracha. In the meantime, that all person is laying dead already. So look the Pirach of Peshischa, machst ka bracha, gap, you finish, dann ka kap. And for Mendele Marinnever, he writes, you know why you don't make a bracha? Because since the chinuch says that the heilig of the mitzvah is mitzvah simcha, and if you don't have it b'simcha, basically, failed us in the mitzvah, so that most of the people do not give the tzedakah b'simcha. So therefore, I'm Chazal gesucht, although, Taki the mitzvah, and people, some people, but, so therefore, there's no bracha. But it's interesting that but it's interesting that there's a beer, the Sefer Chassidim has a beer on the Yerushalmi. He brings down B'Shem HaChosed Rebbe Yui that before he gave Tzeduk, he made a bracha. He made a bracha. Now again, we don't paskling that, but just to bring it to your attention, as it does, eine von der Rishonim, was haben gemacht a bracha, aber das hier nicht Tzeduk. The poskim write, although the Rashba says that we don't make a bracha because we are afraid maybe that guy will not want to take, or because Chaz v'Sholem, he might be in the meantime that guy will die. So if you're putting in a kippah tzedukah, if you're putting in kippah tzedukah, kippah ezra, or whatever it should be, then you should make a bracha. So the Achronim afa piken, since what I gestellt as of tzedukah mach mesh kabrucha. In such a case, Chazal haben nicht gemacht kachilik, and therefore al mitzvah tzedukah mach mesh kabrucha. Fine. Now again, we mentioned before the psika. So we have psoich tiftach and no soin titain. Then we have lo yisa'amatz es lavavchu, lo yisa'amatz es yudechu. Now, in the Moina HaMitzvahs will write only one. That means they will write one mitzvah essa of giving tzedakah and one mitzvah lo essa. But the Rishonim, what? In the minyan HaMitzvahs, was it derselbe inyan HaMitzvah. Auf bekan zugen the Achronim, zugen the Rishonim, that it's zwei mitzvahs essa and zwei mitzvahs lo essa. There are some Rishonim which say it's one and one, although the Torah repeats himself, but I would say the more Rishonim say it is two mitzvahs aside where you give tzedakah, and when you don't give tzedakah, you are over of two lo essas. You have to remember this. This is initially poshet. Somebody comes to you and you are not giving him tzedakah when you have to give him. First of all, two mitzvahs essa, you are mavatel. Lo says we're going to just go now and see what?
What does it mean? Two mitzvahs on the that when part of the tariyah?
Part of
the tariyah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Midaraisa. Mitzvah midaraisa. Yeah. Exactly. Now, so whenever a person has to give tzedukah and doesn't give tzedukah, is first of all automatic mitzvah essa. Now the lo says, if you're over of lo says, which is much erger zach, much higher stringent zach, it should do klulam, it should do tenuam, which we're going to go through now. Now, not everybody agrees on everything, but akapunim, there are poskim lekana. I'm going to just mention it. There are situations that you're not over of the lo essa, but again, we still have two mitzvahs essa, which you are mavatel. What are the mitzvahs? What are the afanim which, when you do the mitzvah, you give the tzedukah, you mekayim mitzvahs asai, and when you don't do it, you are not over the mitzvahs lo essa. So we find about 5 tenoim, according to some poskim, which takes away the lo essa. Because again, the poskim try to take at least away the lo essa, because if not, matlan of a lo essa is gur chumer. What is it? It's like this. The first one is, if the oni does not ask you. If he doesn't come and ask you, so if you go to a oni, you give him tzedakah, then you mekayim mitzvah. But if you didn't go, there's in town a person is a poor person, he could use for Shabbos. You don't go to him and give it to him, you're not over mitzvah lo essa. When you give it, you're mekayim a mitzvah, but you don't give it since he didn't ask you, you're over lo essa.
These are all going to only be for an ani. It's not if there's a building campaign or anything.
No. We're gonna get to that too, but no, it's a different thing. Yeah, we're gonna see in a moment. The second Tanai is this is the Choladais. This first Tanai is the Choladais. If the only didn't ask you, you need nicht over of lo essa. Then we have poskim which say you're not over of the mitzvahs lo essa if the oni has food and he has clothing. That means if it is nicht a oni which is ruav or orom, because you see in the lotion that means if the person has food, he's a poor person, Hilchas Tzedukah, he's permitted to take Tzedukah with Kippur Tzedukah, as we, in Hilchas Tzedukah, there's Klolim, how much you have to have, in order how much you don't have to have, in order to take Tzedukah. If, it's Kuton Mezuz, yeah. So if a person has less than he has the right to take from Tzedukah, but he is not a person, only which doesn't have food, doesn't have clothing. In such a case, there are certain poskim which say that it's not, you're not over. Who is the poskim? Is the Nachras Yankem. Again, I'm telling even bothered in poskim because I want to at least take away, even according to some poskim, the lav is called the Nachras Yankem Ana Alatoir. Who's the Nachras Yankem? The Chavas Das. The Chavas Das, the big poskim Chavas Das, he has a sefer also on Alatoira, in Hepashas Rai, when he talks about this thing, he writes, if the Uni has clothing and has food, in such a case, although you mekayim a mitzvah when you're giving him tzedakah, but if you didn't give, the lois is a falta weg. Then we have a Rishon Letzion, which the Rishon Letzion we know is the Rechaim HaKudosh. His sefer Ashas is called Rishon Letzion. He gives another way. If you gave already Maser, if a person gave, he had, let's say, he had this month he made $10,000 and he took $1,000. He gave it for tzedakah. In such a case, in such a case, when you give mekayim a mitzvah. But in such a case, if you didn't give, is meshonish over of the lois because when I gave my full master, I paid my dues. Then we have poskim which say a oni which does not give tzedakah. Although a oni is mechiv, hakle mechiv but tzedakah. By an uni, by an usher, everybody's mechiv to give tzedakah, even a poor person. But the oni which does not give tzedakah, steht in the naim lemishpat in the over of the isif lo. Then there's the Imre Binna. Imre Binna, famous Imre Binna, the Meir Oidenbach, on Shechenorach, he writes, which is he's a yuchit. Most of the poskim do not agree with it. But again, let's bring it. He wants to say that a person who goes around for tzedakah, although he's an oni and has all the criteria, but since he goes around from door to door, then you are not over of the issue. You're giving him, you're not over the issue. Why? What's the concept of this? As we're going to see, the Rambam holds that we learn the pasuk, you have to give him daim achsoy rashi echse. Yeah? So we learned chimish rasha, we learned chitas. Yeah, so the Rasha, as you have to give him, if he needs a kailam, if he needs a house, sus lirkes ulov, you have to buy him his car. You have to buy him. So what's going on? So we're gonna come to that when goes in this gedra the nishu. But akapunam zukt of them over the Imre Binna, since this guy is a person which has a blech and a punim, he has no shame, he goes around because he needs whatever it should be, but he could go knock on doors and ask for tzedakah. So Zuk di Imre Binna, because sof, since as the Rambam writes, a person which goes around for tzedakah, Zuk the Rambam, you don't have to give daim achsoy rashi echser. Because he can go around, he should go around to other people. I'm giving something, someone else will give something. Zuk di Imre Binna takes it in a step further and says that whenever a guy is ready to go around, he has the proper, he has the proper skills of going from door to door and collecting tzedakah. If you don't give him, although the mitzvah esed writes to give tzedakah, is only, but sof kasof in shdu the isif in lois amas eslavavchu, because he could go around. Now most of the poskim will not agree with it. They say sof kasof, you have to give him something. But the Imre Binna says in such a case you shouldn't do the isif in over belav.
What's the concept on the previous one? The one where the oni doesn't give his own tzedakah.
Yes, the oni whom the one is, although it's a choif to give him tzedakah, but it's for him it's schwer to do because he doesn't have. So therefore, although be'etzim is do is auch mitzvah esem which is auch mechiyev, guys is sharan and the oni himself if he doesn't, yeah. And the final thing is, with this is a zach which is ungenehm according to a lot of poskim, it's to gemish but pasuk zoel alucha. If the oni himself does not come, if the oni himself does not come asking for a donation, is menish over of loisesa. Now again, when you give, that means it's a gaba tzedakah. You have all kind of a gaba tzedakah which goes around collecting for good causes. Now, avada when you give tzedakah, it's mekayim the mitzvah. All of these things when you give tzedakah, you mekayim mitzvah sederaisa and two mitzvah sederaisa according to the other other shoynim. But by not giving you're not over there. He said because the pasuk says there's amas lavachu lechichu hu evyon, and he's not an evyon. He's a gaba tzedakah. So therefore, first of all, to answer your question, when there's a charity campaign, do I need to give tzedakah? Charity is lefochas agaba tzedakah. It's not more than agaba tzedakah. So therefore, the lois asay menish over. Avada when you give tzedakah, you mekayim mitzvah sederaisa, even two mitzvah sederaisa. But akbur agaba tzedakah, and that's a very choshev heter because people ask constantly. I'm getting a link from charity. Do I need to send him money or not? Yeah? Or the answer is, when you give, but if you don't give, hast du nicht mehr watlig werden auf Alois Esse. Do what?
No. Or just ignore it.
No. Hast du nicht bekam gewinnt mit das Esse, aber hast du nicht bewatlig gewinnt mit das Esse. It's not like this. No. But when the oni comes to you, hast du mal watlig gewinnt mit das Esse. Yes, yeah. But as a fall, yeah. Okay, now, when the Oni himself comes to you, there's a chiyuv, as I mentioned, there's a chiyuv, and with his essay the reise, you have to give him tzedakah. How much you give him, as a water. But akapun, we have to give him something. The lotion is, also lohoshev pon of reikim. You cannot just dismiss him. And there's a passing in Tillim, al yushoiv, ayoshuv, dach, nichlam. You shouldn't let the dal should become ashamed, nichlam. So therefore, you have to give tzedakah. If the oni comes and he is a oni himself again, not a gaba tzedakah, then if you're on over here, if you're not going to give him, it's the over of mitzvahs. I'm going to talk about one mitzvah, but again, according to the Rishonim, have in mind, it's two mitzvahs and two mitzvahs. Then must be a mitzvah. Wo darf man geben? Ja, wo darf man geben? A pushe besonders over the mitzvah loisese. Steht in the Meiri, if you give a shova prita, it's enough. You give a shova prita, it's enough. The Remu, from the Remu, the Lushan Remu is a fila noise in the rak groigeres eichet. Oh, it's Tamas about the Remu zug the Lushan groigeres eichet. The Remu a fila groigeres eichet is also enough. The Orchashilchem puts it says Kazayis Lechem. And nowadays, the word is Kazayis Lechem is Makayim the mitzvah. The Rishonim zugen Shuva Prita. The Meir is Shuva Prita. Now, when I learned the Sigya, by me it came out that a Groigeres is more than a Shuva Prita. So the Remu says Shuva Prita. I'm sorry, the Remu says Groigeres Eichet, and the Meiri wants to say even a Shuva Prita. That was my that means the Remu says you have to give him a Groigeres, which in the Meiri goes a step further, it should be a Shuva Prita. It's interesting, today I saw the Reb Chaim Kenias, he has a Sefer Derech Hamunah. He has, it's a Mishnah Berurah style on Hilchas Matnas Hanun, Bekira, Matnas Haniyim, and he passes. And over there he brings out everything, he learned Pshat Fakir. Sucht, as the Remu Zug Groigres, he wants to say that the Remu is a bigger Michael than the Meiri. The Meiri says it has to be Shuva Prita. And in the Meiri, in the Remu says that even a Groigres, which a Groigres is less than a Shuva Prita, is auch Yoitze gewesen. Ich weiß nicht, für wie es gehen immer pinklich. Doesn't sound right. Ja, das habe ich gewollt so. What? Is it as Shuva Prita?
It says 10 Groigres. If one of the Groigres is Shuva Prita, then
oh, so this is the Raya. Okay, fine, good. Ja, ich habe mich gechidisch für wie nimmt das. Ich habe nicht gehabt von wie das. My time I saw it. Ich habe a Shuva Prita today's day. What? Yeah, everything. What could you get for a dime? Yeah. And not a lollipop, maybe a lollipop. I don't know. I think if a lollipop you could get for a dime, but maybe a lollipop. A Groigres is a dry fig.
Can you give us some numbers?
Okay, so what is the Shuva Prita? Again, of this is Ochta Machloikes. But I would say, a dime is enough. So today's day with inflation, whatever, it's a quarter. Ich had gesucht, is probably as Afa Piken Shuva Prita, it should be a quarter. But again, ich kann nicht suchen auf Sachen, but I can put if somebody, a person goes to you.
It's the value of silver. It's like a very small
Exactly. But how much is silver today's day, you know? $1 silver, how much it is, goes according to silver.
One of the considerations is to make sure the ani's not embarrassed. Right? So you're not thinking the penny is going to be...
This is a very, very good question you brought up. Very good question. But von anderer Seite, it's a very tough. But von anderer Seite, if you don't give him anything, I'll start again of halaf. Von anderer Seite, you give him a quarter, he doesn't feel that it's uncomfortable for you and for him, for both of us. But I'll start again of kalaf. So what should you do? And this is a dilemma which I have a long time. It's a dilemma which Chonish can, the only way how to solve this problem is, don't give him a quarter, give him $1. That's my answer of this child. It's a child which constantly people ask. But again, for andere Zaat,
you need to have a credit card machine also.
The what?
A
credit card machine. Okay, we're going to get to that also if you machiv to give. Okay. But Akapunam, if you give him a quarter, you know, again, according to some points which is a dime, you give him a dime, it's yoitziglein. But at least you have to give him something. And if it's a oni. Again, if it's a gaba tzedukah, then as shmevatlik ben iser, shmashven kan mitzvah eser, Akapunam was shmakam ben mitzvah eser, was shmevatlik ben mitzvah eser. So what does it mean? That means when he goes to shul, and a guy, a person, which is basically a oni, and goes around noch tzedukah, you have to give him something. Give him something. Now, you know.
In Muncie where.
No,
there's a one after the other.
One after, what? No, that's
they're not
if they're a gaba tzedukah. If they're a gaba tzedukah, then but the problem is what he says is in Muncie, if you daven is tapad, you have yidin and shleimiyus and be'itzim aminiyim. Basically, there's an maniyim.
You become an onion, you collect.
So it is a legitimate, again, it is a legitimate zach. Aber that's the loch. You have to give a person, now, if you don't have on yourself, by the way, let me just go, you know, a person, so that's why today's day, people don't go around with cash. So it gets a little bit easier. Why? Because you don't have cash, Shtayt in the poiskem, you don't need to go borrow money if to give tzedukah. If the only comes to you don't have to borrow give tzedukah. So do poiskem is halt nicht so. Do poiskem is halt, as if you have at home, you have to go home and come back and give him tzedukah. Only if the oni is not ready to wait. That means he's, which I assume most oni will not be ready to wait to go home. You bring him a quarter. But I can put him bezahar, sag poiskem hold, that if ich bin jetzt in a matzav is chonish kein Geld, bin ich bechiv zu borgen kein Geld. So if you don't have kein Geld, but if a person has money, and therefore, if you go to Akisat, you know, people come with a pack of quarters, and they keep on giving. Now, for the people in Shleim, they give dollar stackers. That's ungenehm. They give a dollar.
Shekel.
They will have to machen die Kinder.
Everybody has choivas. Every Shleimid, because the norm is to give an apartment. Akapurim don't be the norm is. You know, in Lubavitch is the norm to give apartment. In Ger is also the norm to give apartment. I don't know, but gewisse Plätze which there's the norm. So he has to give, or America has choivas. I mean, I mentioned choivas and how is there a uni. So again, in some is the issue. The problem is the issue. Yes. You know, yes. I must tell you, whenever I go back to Monsi, and Shachas, the people are coming, ich freis dich to do. You know, by my house in Monsi, every day I had 2, 3, 5, 6 people who used to come noch tzedukah. Over here, nobody likes to know tzedukah. Ich freis dich, ich come Monsi, we can't give him.
You have to tell him you are
Every
here.
5 minutes.
Every 5 minutes.
I'll keep on again. What? One of the poiskim, right? Once you gave the ma'aser, the Rishon LeZion, the Rachaim Kudish writes, if you gave out the ma'aser, that means not you put it in your ma'aser envelope. If you gave out your ma'aser already, then it's not till you have the next income which you have to give ma'aser. Okay. What?
Why is Meister Kazafi.
Meiser
I
Ksufim.
didn't take you out of the gifts of God, which is that the separate.
Because I gave, because the reason is, the Lashon is like this. Why, if I'm, the Isser is Lois Amans as Levach. So if, I gave, I'm keep on giving. So therefore, again, it's only there is an understanding. So there are andere Posken bringen, it's a up. But I wanted to bring all this Hetayr and order just, because it's a big achrais. Somebody comes to you and doesn't give. So we try to melam schis in the shemaim as zolzan. But again, I'm hot geld and can't give. We gave. How viel etwas geben? Weiter.
10%. You gave 10%.
Yeah.
That was it. You had to give 10%.
10% of your income. Yeah.
Not, you don't have to get to 20% before you say, okay, really, I don't have to.
You're going to go into
He doesn't talk about chomesh, but we're going to get to that again. Also about what?
after expenses, before expenses.
We're going to get to all these things. This is a Maaseh Ksufim is a heavy, long in a subject which there's questions. Shalas unashir. We'll get to that. That's why we have a series of 3 shiurim. If not, we don't need more maybe. Okay. Al Kapunam, what's wichtig aloch? The Sache is ein Poshet aloch, it's a Poshet aloch l'maisa. And again, it's Elul. The whole thing is, everything is tzedakah.
Geschrieben früher war im Leben.
Magshim Oimel. Fine, okay. Fine. Then we have another thing. A person, this is auch a wichtig aloch, people don't realize, but should remember that if you say a Misha Bayrech, and you promise tzedakah for the shul, there's an extra mitzvah, an extra choiv, you have to do what you promised for whatever you. In the Chazal darshan befichu, the mitzvah tzedakah. You promised a Misha Bayrech, you have to give it the extra mitzvahs essa, you have to give it what it does. Now, the poskim write, if there is an oni, if you promise geld for oni, and the oni is right away, that means you have the oni right away. I said, I'm going to give tzedakah for oni. And you have an oni which comes right away, you are going to be over right away if you don't give it. Stamazoi, if I say I'm Misha Bayrech, I'm going to give for the shul. So there's a locha that lekitchila, you have to give it till the first Yom Tov. People do not know it, but that's also for every Hegdish. And that's tzedakah. If you say Misha Bayrech, you have to give it till Sukkot. Sukkot is the first Shalosh Golem, but you're not over of Balta Achar. If you're going to wait 3 Regolim, that means if you say it now, Misha Bayrech, you're not going to give it till after Shavuos, bist du over of Balta Achar ochet. Zung nach Roinam, if you said that I'm going to give tzedakah for Oni, a poor person, and the Oni is over here, then if you don't give it right away, then must be to showing Balta Achar right away. If it is. But one loophole is do legaba the shul or whatever. And Baruch Hashem Remendel is Makayim. It doesn't mean people should be over of the Remendel. You don't want people should be over of the Isirim of Balta Achar. So therefore, if the Gabba Tzedukah does not ask you for it, then there's no Balta Achar. As we see about Schar Suchir, which is a signature, I want one day cover it. Schar Suchir is a locha that when he worked for you, a guy came to you, he stole something in your house, you have to pay him within the next, till the next 12 hours, so to speak. If if a guy comes to you, we're going to get to it, I'm going to finish, then you'll hear what I'm saying. A guy comes to you, Schar Sucher, you have to pay him that day. If you don't pay him that day, you're over of halav. Over of halav. The Chofetz Chaim made a whole sefer on Havas Chesed. All this is very important. The people do not realize. Comes to you a plumber and asks you for money, and you don't pay him, bist du over of halav. Steigt aber in Shulchan Aruch, if that guy did not ask the money yet, he didn't send you an invoice, you have to send you an invoice. Or he didn't ask you the money, bist du shoifer. When he asks you, then halb sich the choif. Zukt of them the achroinam as the selbe Sache is about tzedukah. Kedai oiv zan av lois achar is only if the Gabbat tzedukah asks you, you know you have a bill, open bill for Misha Bayrech. If it doesn't ask you, you're not over. Again, you still have a choiv to give the money. But the laugh, the oiv zan av lava, is the raisa, then as long as the Gabbat doesn't ask you, therefore you're not over. So till he's going to ask you, till he's going to ask it to you. Now again, your choiv is still a choiv. You have to give it. It's still your achra. You have to give it. But to be over of the loisa achar, you have to have the garbage.
Till Yonte.
Till what?
No, still till when?
Till when what?
If, let's say, he gave an adobe in shul.
Yeah.
So,
No.
it's only, he has other, one regular shloisher.
Nein, aber als noch wenn man sagt Tavaya. Aber nicht Tavaya, hat sich, für wenn ist Tavaya, damals hat damals, lektchila, chodesh, in Moed Echet, in B'devet, B'devleis, it's 3 miyad.
If you buy a kibbutz on, I don't know, Shabbat Bereshis,
Yeah.
and then they send you a bill and say you made a pledge,
Yes?
you don't have the whole year to pay it off?
3 miyadim. 3 miyadim. Except if Mota, except, the Ketchila is einmal, yeah, in B'devet, the Ketchila is, yeah. Yeah, but again, if it's at night, let's say for instance, we make you have a year to pay. If that is the night, then again, kol tnai shebemuman neshayich. I feel it's a hegdish. Kol shnai demuman. You know, so of course, if the shul will say give a pledge, you can give it paid in 5 years. There's no issa. There's no lesacha. I'm talking if they didn't, you have to give it. Then kim taran they look for lesacha. What?
On the Bible they say whoever owes, please pay.
Okay, das heißt, yeah, because het gemoond. Then there's a locha shechanorach, Gabay Tzedukah. A Gabay Tzedukah could not take from women and children Nesina Maruba. You cannot take a lot of money from them.
I think it's accurate.
The what?
Today also.
Even today also. Even when they, yes.
They have the old money.
Exactly. We get into the mamash, the next sentence. Even today, and even if they're working, women who are working, the money belongs to the husband. If they like it or not. So therefore, since the money belongs to the husband, she cannot give matuna mariba. She can give matuna mayetas. What is matuna mayetas, matunas mariba? That depends on the wealth of that family. But akaponam.
Why could she give more to his husband?
If what?
Why can you give to the father who belongs to you?
If it doesn't belong to you, because that is matuna mayetas. We have a chalotas das that the husband is maskwa of matuna mayetas. The poskim right, add on what you just brought up, beautiful thing. We know the husband's a stingy guy. And he says, I don't want you to give $1 for tzedukah. Nothing. She has usher to give tzedukah, and if she gives tzedukah, she's over of Isa Gezel. I hope there's not such a scenario, but we gotta say it. But, Matuna Miyatas, we have a gilida, we in some das, as every husband is at least normal, that there's a locha shechanurch ocha, the wife has to could say for a husband, you're making a bad name in but if he says, okay, I don't care, also to give. So a small matona, we say a husband gives him permission. A big matona, we say he doesn't give permission. But if she says, I have the right to give it, my husband gives permission to give this amount, she has namonas. But as long as she doesn't say, and you feel it's a lot of money, because Chazal knew that the women are, in a way, sometimes they don't work for the money. So therefore the husband is working, they want to be, Uni is crying, why is and they want to give you, why not? Why you give $1,000? Why not? She's going to have her dresses and the jewelry in any case. It's only if he's going to be able to, go out for supper, for lunch. Again, if it's a matuna mariba, yes. If it's only Kim's, you give him a brisket which is worth $98, yes, you're over the face.
How is the ani supposed to know that whether it's
the oni does not know, but it's do azach. If somebody knocks on the door and a lady gives you a check of $500, you got to ask him, what? It's not a chiv on the oni, but if he takes it and says a matuna mariba is kim tos azit machshel mit Isel Gezel. So lifnai evil is in the machshel. If the what?
Putting a stumbling block.
Translate.
If he's
Causing her to go there.
So again, if he's moich even for betuna me'etos, he's also. And if she says that I have the permission to give it, then it's not a problem. Then she can give. And even if the wife knows that my husband is a a constant stingy, doesn't give tzedakah. And what do you mean? My husband shouldn't give. We're making a lot of money. I know what my husband has, and he has millions of dollars. He doesn't give tzedakah. I want to give. Over of gezel. Make him over that he should want to give tzedakah.
Today, in a lot of shuls, even by Lubavitch, Shluchim, they make appeal, and the women, they also have to say something. And they giving, so the man they don't have a right.
No, if the husband doesn't, no. But again, if she says that I have permission from my husband, then it's okay. Yeah. And the poskim right, mamish nizachen, gam meisha, which is working, and she is doing the business, so she is bringing in parnasa, ayin lekachel b'lo shis bala. You cannot take your husband. Because, after all, she can be a very good, good-hearted. What you can do, what you cannot give.
But she can't even guarantee that might still be taken on her earnings then.
No. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. It's not hers. It's his. It goes the other way too. Which is a constant phenomenon. Yeah. In Muncie, there's constantly, the people know the addresses, where they give $10, where they give $20, where they give $18, So I had a lot of times when we give a person $25, my wife gives $25, and it says, give me more. So the easiest answer in that situation, this is how much I have the right to give. So they know the halachas. By the way, they know the halachas. And once if he's here, this I have the right to give. So then case closed. So again, it goes two ways. A person is oisik b'mitzvah, is poter ben a mitzvah. That's the klal. A person is in the middle of doing a mitzvah, is poter ben a mitzvah. The Gemara learns it out that a person is a shomer avaida. He is now a shomer of avaida, which he found something, and he's now a shomer avaida. He's a poter to give a oni for tzedakah. But oisik mitzvah put him in a mitzvah. Zukchin of them the poskim. This is the stam. That's oni stam. Stama oni. But if it's a oni, which is ruav oi uram, as I mentioned before, he needs food, is some poskim say in such cases not a het. But akaponam, in a case which it is not this case, oisim is purim mitzvah. Therefore, zukt of them derech hamina, that a person is in the middle of davening, he has a right not to give tzedakah. I the only goes in shul, so that comes you back to Sapar shul. Somebody comes to you and asks for tzedakah. Do you have to give? Or you put him in a tzedakah? And I'm not talking if you become the mitzvah. But the answer is, ich halte jetzt mitten davenen, and mitten davenen, ich put him in. Now, the chronim mashmiz, if it's also psikid, is what?
If you're stingy, you have to mitten davenen. Again,
the insirat min halucha. The emesaran is, we know, as we're going to come to the shir chiev, but akaponam, at least, again, first I wanted to take off the mitzvah, the loises, because again, we're playing around with loises. So therefore, this is, the chrenim mashal, what's heißt davenen? What does it mean davenen? Ich hab psik dem heißt auch davenen, oder efshe nor, aber lamas, the pashas in the chat, whatever, I'm in the middle of davening, because it cannot be tefillah should mean shemoneh, because that is also the So what does it mean? Also means put a mitzvah. So pashas it means there's the chiyuv. What? Steht ihm ja. The chiyuv is eine Sache. Stehen ist eine zweite Sache. Ich habe aber gesehen, an interesting thing. Ich habe im Gesicht ein bisschen nach Reuen und wanted to see on this country. Ich habe gesehen, as the Terezach schon Zalman Oibach mit der Yashi were asked, what is when a person says Tillim? What is the halacha? Is he put him in a mitzvah or not put him in a mitzvah? This is a little shalom. And the pasken, that the middle of saying Tillim is always a mitzvah. But between kapitlach, that's not always a mitzvah. So if you're still waiting, for the Shlich Tzibur to finish the kapitel, then you're going to start the next kapitel, that half a second, that's not put him in a mitzvah. So again, just to, fine. The what?
Learning as well.
Ah, man, just the learn zach. Well, it's the mitzvah. Put him in mitzvah.
We're driving crazy in the peak of festival.
What is the chiv shir of giving tzedakah? Let's go to the next step. How much of the chiv do I need to give? Now we know the minimum. Groigres, or Shuva Prita, or Kazais Lechem, the Urchashidchen says. What is the minimum? What do we need to do? Okay. Steigt in Shichenorach, Simarash Mem Tes, Sif Aleph, Shir Nesine, Im Yud, listen to Lushan again, very closely. Im Yudai Maseges, if he has the money, Yudai Maseges means he has the means, Yiten Kefi Tzoyrech Waniyim. He should give as much as the onion needs. If he cannot give that much, Yitan at Chomish, Nechosov. You should give till Chomish Nechosov. Mitzvah min ha-mifcher, 20% is mitzvah min ha-mifcher, 20% mitzvah min ha-mifcher. In Ma'aser, that's 10% is mid the beinanis. And a stingy guy is called, if he gives less than Ma'aser, is called Ein Ru. That's a bad eye. This is the Lush of Mechaber. So again, the Mechaber says like this. If you have the means, you give as much as the one he needs. Whatever he needs. If you don't have that much, if you are basically mitzvah in the mitzvah, want to do a mitzvah in the mitzvah, you give 20%, that means a choymesh. If mid the bainan is you give Ma'aser. So that's a clueless digger. Then of the Mechaber writes like this. Then comes the Remu, and the Remu adds on that the Ifsha Hitkini, there's a Gemara says, an Ifsha is a place, Chazal made a tekana, Hamavazvaz, al Yevazvaz Yosim a Choymesh. When you give tzedakah, don't give more than a Choymesh. Although the Mechaber writes, you should give as much as the onion needs, Zug the Remu adds on, don't give more than a Choymesh. Why? Shloit Yitztarech Lebrias. If you're going to give more than that, one day you won't have panas, and therefore you're going to be on. So therefore, don't give more than a choymesh. Oh, what is the exceptions? Now we have you can't give more than choymesh.
You say choymesh. You say choymesh of nechasav or choymesh of the income?
Choymesh of income. This is when we going to get to the Heilige Maas that we're going to see. The income, the profit which a person has, you should give choymesh. Okay, now that's the remove. So the first thing which we have is, like Remendel just said, the Alter Rebbe writes, that's all, alles feine oil, when the wills becomes on a mitzvah. A mitzvah, tzedukah, there's such a thing as don't give more than a choymesh. But in Hilchas Refuya, a person could give as much as he needs. If a person has Rahman on a child which is sick, he would spend all his vermögen, all his, money to take him to the best doctors, in the best hospitals. So the Alter Rebbe, Tzorich Refuya HaNefesh is less. So since today's day we cannot fast, and we all have for what to fast, so therefore, the Alter Rebbe, you can give as much as you want. And it's interesting, the Alter Rebbe brings it down in Tanya, in all the poiskim, halacha, bring this down halacha from the Alter Rebbe. First of all, if anybody had pressure that he cannot give more than 20%, we know we have the Alter Rebbe who says that it's not a problem. Next exclusion is before a person passes away. That's all when he lives. Because why shouldn't he give more than 20%? So the Gemara says why, and then Mu brings it down. Now he's on his deathbed. Yeah, now he wants to give whatever he has. He wants to give for tzedakah. Of course, he could give. There's no problem. Maybe he's passing away. And by the way, people make a big mistake. They write in their will that I'm giving for that shul, for that Beis Chabad, for that tzedukah. I'm giving 10% of my inheritance goes for tzedukah. He wants to give tzedukah. Huh? My estate. Okay. As we have attorney by the sheet too. What happens? He passes away, and 10% goes from the state goes to tzedukah. What Mekayim get a mitzvah? What mitzvah did the Mekayim? The ma'aseh mechavshi. No such a thing as gendikt. So people, if the best thing will be, a lot of times fundraisers come to a wealthy guy and says, "Don't worry, I have your mind in my will. I gave, the easier, Shloim is not here anymore. Oh, he left before, Shulchan Aruch. He was over here by Matzah, was here by Morer, Shulchan Aruch he left.
Yes, something.
Yeah.
When we built the shul, there was a guy, I went to him, I asked him, he should give money. He said, I left you in the will. I told him, why do you have to wait till after they die? Enjoy it now. You see, people are dying. And he gave me $100,000.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes that won't help, but if you're gonna, the guy is tell it for a frummer guy, you're gonna say, you know what, one thing? You give it now, you mekayim mitzvah sederaisa. If you give it then, thank you very much, but that's about it. No mitzvah. No mitzvah. Now you're giving a mitzvah.
He's doing this for the age.
No, there's no mitzvah. There's no, what? Could be a schus. You can't come mitzvah. You know what a mitzvah is? One time doing a mitzvah? Schus, alles feine wohl. It is, that, and I can tell you, a guy told me, is a fundraiser for a vision's a guy. He told me that he was once talking to the Monsey Vision's Rebbe. He was a good fundraiser, and he told him this thing. And that fundraiser told me once. I was once by a big guy, and he told me one of the visions, Alte Marmarash, we had a lot of money, and from Rebbe, and he sat down and said, "Listen to me. I understand. We're going to get this money, no question about it. But why should you give me a kind of mitzvah? A mitzvah of tzedukah, you know what I mean?" And that convinced him to give it, There's another option if you want to at least push out the mitzvah, not to get the money now. As you should give it me'achshav. That means you should give it for. Obviously, nicht den ganzen so push it. In such a case, it will help. Ich will nicht schon lange nehmen. Aber I can put a person before he passes away, he gives all his money. That's fine. Third thing which the poskim say is to bringing children to Talmud Torah. That means if you have a child or you have children on the streets. Because the Chayde cannot want to take him in because they can't pay full tuition, and you are going to pay that boy should sit the Talmud Torah, you could give more than a chomish. Because the Tzorech Talmud Torah, steht in the post kann man auch geben mehr, oder steht nicht im Gebetses. In Ksibas, Tzorech Talmud Torah can man geben more than a chomish. What? I want you to be going to get later when it comes to my.
Today you give more than these. The yeshivas.
Yeah. Okay. Fourth exception is the tzorech kibbud avim. If you have parents which are basically they need, they're poor people, and if you give them more than a chomish, there's not a problem. There's some soifer simi in Aisha. Chutei zuk teklud for kibbud avim. Make men give yosim and a chomish. Again, I only want to bring. I know there's a lot of people over here which are very pressured because if they want to give more than a chomish and they don't have a heter to give a chomish, I'm giving you some time to give more than a chomish. And the final thing is, no, not the final, the second thing is Usher Gudel. If a person is very, very wealthy, is bepashtus ha-mechaber mashma me can geben. Again, lo der Remu is the sheheter, but the Remu is of the mechaber, aber of shein oimer, or like according to the mechaber, is kedai, the Shulchan Aruch, list bechula b'shas ha-tchag, when you really want to give, and you need a heter, you have the Shulchan Aruch, the heter. And finally is the Chofetz Chaim writes in his sefer, because you remember I mentioned before, Chofetz Chaim made also a sefer. It's called Ahavas Chesed and Hilchos Tzedukah, Hilchos the Nyonim, which, and the Chofetz Chaim writes over there a heter that a person he's on a fixed wage. He's a worker in a company, and basically he has weekly salary, $5,000 he gets every week. Then he could give more than the chomish, because the whole reason is because he shouldn't become poor, and basically it's Sarach Labrias. He has a contract for the next year or two. So in such a case, maybe give what? If you go handicap?
How's it going to help? Show me that Labrias. There's a reason why the person said that death. It's one that's still living. He has a job today.
Yeah, but a person which basically has a contract with a place and works over there, he doesn't lose his job. Not
a modern job where they fire you.
Yeah, hast du gesigned a lease, the next year you're covered. Next year, when it expires, then if it's a monthly basis, then it's something else.
Talking about the people they get in food stamps.
Also, usually companies which have a person which is gets unemployed, gets gets from the government all kind of, SSI, which whatever, if you get damaged. Says, mishtayt han ganz fine, I feel when you get damaged.
How can we give more than a chomesh for tzarech and nefesh if it's going to mitzara brios?
If it's going to?
If it's going to burn in the public, that's just mitzara brios, right?
Yeah.
What?
It's going to be tzarech habrios.
No.
How can you give more than a chomesh if it's
Weil ping wie a mensch has the right to give for his child's or his own refuahs. He could spend all his money for this because that's a normal thing. A person for his a person has a right.
even if a person is going to be
Even yeah. You could say for a guy, how could you spend and borrow money and take your child to in Boston in a hospital and it's going to cost $500,000? We're going to have to make a charity campaign. Has no right. That it says, no, I do have a right.
There's only one way to get that operation, but
there's only one way to get it.
There's many ways.
Yeah, you could start fasting the next. Yeah. Again, the Shechanor writes that you have to give it b'simcha, and if you don't give it b'simcha, you lose schar. So again, this is a very harsh zach. Then steht in Shechanor, what time is it? Okay, then the Shechanor writes that if a oni comes to you and you don't have what to give him, then you should at least be mafayis him. I would love to give you, I don't have the money, I don't have the mean, maybe next time you come, I'll do have. Being mafayis, it's a part of giving tzedakah. At least you make him feel good, and he's embarrassed enough for going from door to door, so therefore, Lo yigar ulav, also steht in Shechanor, you ligar ulav and look at him, you face him with and tell him that basically I would love to, and you should at least go away with some kind of dignity.
It's
from
like
Lo Shechanor. What? Yeah, I mentioned before the master. The Gemara says the master gives it the punim zarafas. Yeah. Okay, so now how much do we need to give? That means how much do I need to give for oni? Now the Rambam writes, which the Shechanor elaborates even more than Rambam. The Rambam writes like this: Lefi ma shechoser oni litloy, you have to give him. If he doesn't have clothing, you have to buy him clothing. If he doesn't have klai bayis in his house, doesn't have furniture, you have to buy furniture. He doesn't have a wife, you have to make sure that he can marry. You should make sure he has a chasna house. If it's a lady, you have to make sure that she should be able to get married. If he had usually a sis lichrat, that means he used to have a car and he doesn't have a car. You have to help him for a car. All the rest, a whole grocery list with the Gemara, with the Rambam Rechasos, says the Gemara, and the Shechanor Pascal says in the Shechanor, Yedai Sima Nisi V'Alav, half of the Shechanor, Kama Nois Leuni, I'm Machsoyer. You have to give whatever you need, everything you have to give. So basically, if you have a poor guy and makes chasana, he needs $100,000. You have the $100,000 in your pocket or in your savings. You have to go to the bank and take it out and give it to him. Kim the Remu and says on the Mechaber brings this whole grocery list. Mechaber says, Venera, the chol ze begabay tzedukah. That's a gabay tzedukah. That means you have a person, a oni in the community, which in this community there's a person which needs X, Y, and Z. The community, the gabay tzedukah, which takes care, he has to make sure to give her or him whatever needs. He should be able to have survive. Every individual is nicht mechiv. It's not a chiv on every individual. It's a chiv on the gabay tzedukah. Du doktor, b'chanene, chozeh b'gabay tzedukah. Oy rabim b'yachad. Could be barabim. Aval ayna yuchid, mechuyev lit le'uni dai machsoira. Nicht mechiv. What should you do? Eilo the oni madir tzare barabim. The oni should go and clap a shul. The boy say, I'm a poor person. I don't have to make ends meet. I don't have those. So then, the Sachoy v'sibber, andere hat the Remukim zugen Sachoy v'sibber, zwischen Sachoy v'sjuchit. If you're Maya Rabben, Etzla, Yitna Yuchit im Yudim Masekes. Du kim der Ramon zugt, aber if you don't have Rabben, you're living in a place which there isn't a Gabbat, there isn't a Tzibber, there isn't a whatever, then in such a case, Yudim Masekes, he has to give. But a kaponim, it's not a din on every person. A person comes to you and that you have to give him that machzoira. Noch a sach is mavir, and that's a crucial information, as we mentioned before. The Rambam writes, Uni amachazer ala psochim, eines gucken am di matunem riba. So the Rambam says, even if a fille azamatzi v'medaf yo geben mir, if it's uni amachazer ala psochim, hast du stamish kachof. Because he goes around. Go to Monsi, go to Wandsburg, go to New Square, go to Barpa, go to Shul. Satmar Shul, over there, everybody comes. Go there, you go collect geld. So, for such a case, eines kukim l'maturim riba. Darf man nicht geben. Aber nois l'maturim eitis, as I mentioned before, what do you mean? A quarter pay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Comes according, so first of all, it takes off a big pressure that a person, which is basically has no shame, so to speak, then fällt es weg. Wie kommt aus, ja, am soll dafen? If you're living in a community, and there is over there a poor person, which is in need, and is ashamed to ask, and it came to your attention, that basically there's a person which is in need, then is a choiv of the tzibur, taka, tam to stellen us mit afstin. But if a guy goes around asking for this, he's a boer machazah psuchim, geiz is shiran maturim me'eta, darf man auch gehen maturim me'eta, nicht maturim me'riba. So that answers another question. The question answer which I had constantly. Over here, it's noch angefiert, we are still, Yachasit, a tiny town, but once you're going to get to Williamsburg Borough Park, Monty, Monroe standards, you're going to have it, that in front of the grocery, there was always people who were sitting over there and asking for donations. No, the cash comes up constantly. What do I need to do?
Quarter.
Do I need to give every person which stands over there I need to give? The answer is yeah. If he's a Gabbat Tzedukah, no, you don't have to give. But if he's the poor person on himself, you have to, and she, a lady or whatever who stands and asking for money, miss the game, a quarter. Change. There's a half, but they're going, there's such thing as they give the change for tzedukah. So, a kaponam, this is the halacha, that if you have, a person goes around, it's a zoe. Even, maturim me'etzes you have to give. So, when you are in a shul, just to sum up what we learned till now, you're going to a shul, and there's a person which is a gabbat tzedukah, me'ikar adin, Mr. Shoiver of Kanisa, if you don't give. If you give, if it's the oni himself, you gotta give him something. And that will be over here, that will be over in the grocery, whatever it should be. If it is the oni himself, you gotta give him what? Daf kayid. The choy daf kayid. Now the shtaitchen is that even for a goy, what? Mishem aive can man noch geben for adults. Can man geben for a goy. Aber a kapul the choiv, chichu evian. Goes over chichu, and that's the mechiv to give.
When you go in and out 7-7, you have to come over. You need to show for that activity.
If they ask you.
Not if they're just sitting there.
Not necessarily. We have to stop here. We're going to be mamshech. We're going to come to this kid also. Only comes to 10 people on time. It goes only to one person. What's the halacha? We're going to get to that. But kapunam, if he asks you, tzedakah.
What happened?
What?
He's sitting in front of and they stuck anybody. Anybody walking in, stuck. It doesn't say anybody. It doesn't point to anybody.
No, the ladies who are sitting from 17, of course.
They're going to
They're going to give me a big, yes.